Hi there, welcome. This is the Kelly's Astrology podcast, where you can find insight, guidance, and understanding through astrology. I'm Kelly, and I'll be your host.
Hey there, everyone, and welcome to this week's show. As we turn the corner to head into the middle of December, we come upon the next lunation, which is a new moon in Sagittarius. This will be the last new moon of the year, and it highlights some contrasting themes and signatures. So that's what I'll be exploring in today's episode. Before we dive in, I want to let you know about my 2026 Year Ahead Astrology webinar. If you'd like to explore the major transits and trends for the year ahead, I hope you'll join me on Saturday, December 20th for a live 90-minute presentation. I'll be talking all about the astrology of 2026, including Uranus in Gemini, trine Pluto in Aquarius, as well as Saturn and Neptune in Aries. In 2026, there's also a Venus retrograde in the signs of Libra and Scorpio. Plus, of course, we have eclipses, some of which will be in new signs this year, as well as lots of emotional explorations as highlighted by Mercury's retrogrades, which will take place in water signs this coming year. Join me for my most popular webinar event of the year. I hope to see you then. All right, so let's dive in to this new moon in Sagittarius. So the very last new moon of 2025 will take place on Friday, December 19, if you're in Canada and the US, and that will be the following day, Saturday, December 20th, if you're in the UK, Europe, or Australia. The new moon itself will be at 28 degrees of Sagittarius. And what I'll do first is just list off some of the really notable astro data, and then I'm going to pick out the pieces of that I think are most influential, and we'll dive into their themes and meaning. So Venus is near to the new moon at 24 Sag. So the new moon is at 28 and Venus is right there. So there's a little bit of that enjoyment, pleasure, leisure, relaxation theme. The new moon itself is separating from a square to Saturn, which is at 25 Pisces, and it's applying to a square to Neptune, which is at 29 Pisces. So the new moon is at 28 Sag, and it's applying to a square to Neptune. And so out of all of that data, I'm especially interested in Neptune's influence, as that is building at the time of the new moon and will continue to kind of emanate out through the cosmos for at least 24 hours afterwards. So there's a lot of, new moon square Neptune, sun square Neptune energy around December 19 and 20th. Of course, if we're thinking about the important data points for this new moon in Sagittarius, I also have to mention Jupiter, which is the ruler of this new moon in Sagittarius, which is, of course, in the sign of Cancer. So with that data listed off, the new moon is near to Venus. It's coming out of a square to Saturn, moving into a square with Neptune, and it's ruled by Jupiter, who is in Cancer. Let's explore the most influential parts of all of that information. And before we even get into that, well, maybe the very top part that doesn't often get emphasized, this is a new moon in Sagittarius. So it's a new moon in a fire sign. At first glance, there is this sense of movement and adventure and maybe courage or willingness to take risks. This idea of pushing boundaries or wanting more space to move around in. Sagittarius is a wild and very free-spirited sign. And so you might experience some restlessness. You might crave wider territory or more space to move around in. You might long for more freedom or flexibility. After all, Sagittarius is a mutable sign, and we know that mutable signs love variety, they love flux and change, they like things to kind of adapt and be in motion and moving. This latter part of Sagittarius, technically the second half of the sign of Sagittarius, is often referred to technically as a feral part of the zodiac, and it's considered to be one of the most wild and primal places in the zodiac. And so with a new moon in this kind of wild, primalistic part of the zodiac, you might be more in touch with your animalistic self, your primal kind of instinctive self. And that means under this new moon, you might be making choices out of instinct rather than from your intellect. So we're not really thinking things through here. We might be reacting or responding. We're kind of instinctively honoring that kind of energy inside that says go towards something or go away, like step back from something. Because it is a new moon in a fire sign and there is this more primal theme to this part of the zodiac, physical movement and more intense exercise is going to be a really helpful thing to draw on, especially if you are having any strong reactions or really intense urges, or if you're feeling a little bit reckless and restless. Physical activity before making major decisions will be especially helpful under this new moon in late Sagittarius. Now, even though the new moon's in a fire sign and that elemental energy is in the mix, I suspect that Neptune as a planet is the one that kind of most strongly influences both the lunation, the new moon on the 19th and 20th, as well as the 2 weeks that follow the new moon. And that's because of that square. So the new moon is square to Neptune, which is at the very tail end of Pisces. And this creates this very ethereal, mystical overlay to this otherwise adventurous, active new moon. It also introduces the water element into the qualities and the energetics of this new moon. It introduces the element of water and all that it represents. So this new moon is not just about fire and action and movement and boldness. It is a new moon that has to incorporate feelings and intuition, healing, connection. And with Neptune, Neptune is a planet that tends to slow things down or even suggest a very sluggish quality or going as far as like lethargic. And so this is where we start to see some of the contrast here. The new moon in Sagittarius is normally quite fast-paced and very quick-moving, but the influence of Neptune suggests slower is the way to go. Under the auspices of Neptune, this new moon might kind of bring forward a dream or a longing, or help you explore imagined worlds and possibilities, like spending time just wondering about a different kind of life, a different existence, being in a different place. That idea of giving like room and space to the dreams and the kind of longings inside. You actually might prefer to check out of reality for a little while, and maybe you're looking for an escape or just a break from your regular routines and responsibilities. Neptune is less interested in many things that are upheld in modern life. Neptune, for instance, is really not that interested in worldly success, the approval of others, or empty goals. Instead, when we have this strong influence from Neptune, you might find that you're drawn back to the spiritual realm, that you want to reorient according to your spiritual practices or priorities. You might be reacquainting yourself with the divine. The longings that we often have kind of flooding into and through us under Neptune are often not longings that can be fulfilled by anything of this world. We do have to cast our gaze heavenward for that to be fulfilled. So if you're feeling a bit of an emptiness or a lack of something, instead of casting about for a thing in your life in this world to fill that hole or to make that longing go away, see if you can incorporate meditative practices or spiritual practices, rituals that have an oracle quality or are helping you connect into the esoteric metaphysical realms. They may be more helpful than anything that is kind of this world. Because really from the point of view of Neptune, Neptune really prefers that you embrace a path that brings you closer to magic and to the mystical. Neptune wants you to have time and space for connection to that which is the most divine and sacred, which could be nature, it could be music, It could be particular rituals. It could be structured philosophical practices or spiritual practices. None of these things are kind of the worldly, ambitious stuff. So hopefully that piece of what Neptune's after is coming through. So under this new moon in Sagittarius square Neptune, you might be ready also, like we think about what else is Neptune about, you might be ready to surrender a dream that's no longer fulfilling. You may find that you need to rest and recuperate. Maybe you have been chasing these kind of inklings or little shadowy threads, and you're like, I just need to pause or rest, or I need to recalibrate with myself. It's quite likely that you will be less productive and less organized. You might find that you're a little bit dreamy or a little bit vague. There may be moments of confusion or even overwhelm. The way forward might seem temporarily unclear or uncertain. Neptune is kind of saying there's no data or facts or information that will guide you from here. He is, sometimes Neptune symbolically kind of creates this foggy quality as a reminder that we have other decision-making faculties than our intellect, than our mind, than our brains. So those subtle senses of that visceral feeling inside, an energetic pull towards or away from something, even being fascinated with a topic or a direction that you can't quite explain, but nor can you kind of set it down. These things are clues from that more intuitive felt Neptunian space. So we may be surrendering dreams that are no longer fulfilling. We may be checking out a little bit from the real world. We may be sitting in a place of uncertainty while we allow the dreams to swirl around and through us, the longings that we've had, the longings that are yet to be. And a lunation that is under the touch of Neptune, it does have a kind of glamour to it. And this isn't like high fashion, glamour or glamorous, people. It's more like that magical glamour, like an enchantment or where a spell might enthrall you, that you might be believing in something that may or may not be real, but you're kind of swept up in it and you want to lose yourself in it so that you could have that sort of otherworldly experience. And as part of this Neptune energy, you might find yourself quite enchanted by a dream or a vision or a longing, a sense of possibilities. You might be swept up in this sort of dreamlike fairy tale sort of possibility. And as much as you can, I would really encourage you to immerse yourself in the realm of your dreams and imaginings now. Like, how can you be in the other world or not be so in this world? And some of the ways we do that is by opting for a slower, less hurried pace with fewer time-specific tasks. So give yourself a block of time, a day, a whole weekend, 48 hours, where you are not on the clock, where you're not going from scheduled time, appointment, or event to the next. And it's in that kind of slower, less scheduled space that you might find you can truly embrace the fluidity of Neptune in Pisces and its influence on this very movable, mutable new moon in Sagittarius. And through doing that, you might be able to kind of let go and go with the flow, like let go and let it flow. You might be able to follow your feelings in a very flexible way through the days as much as you can. So this idea of, losing yourself in a dream is like, what if I didn't have to be at this place on time or be the responsible one or organize this? And of course, you may want to communicate that to others, like I'm just taking a little break or I won't be doing X, Y, Z, so you don't want to let people down kind of without explanation. But certainly that sense of giving yourself time where you can go with the flow. And if you feel like resting, you can rest. If you feel like engaging with others or going to places, you can. But you want to bring that fluidity and that flexibility in so that it's not expected or pre-planned. It's just as we're attuned to the feeling and the inspiration and the intuition in the moment, it's like, oh yeah, I want to reach out to that person, or I just want to be here quietly, whatever it might be. So that's a lot about Neptune, but I do think this period around the new moon in Sagittarius is very Neptunian. But additionally, of course, we do need to talk about Jupiter. This new moon is in Sagittarius, which is a sign ruled by Jupiter. And at the time of the new moon, Jupiter is in Cancer. And so as far as this is a new moon in a fire sign, it's really the element of water that is much more prominent. And that's, of course, it partly to do with Neptune, a planet associated with water, aspecting the new moon from a water sign, but also the influence of the ruler of the new moon being Jupiter in Cancer. So we do have a lot of that water energy, in the mix for this new moon. And that's going to highlight things like healing and feeling, as well as tapping into nourishing connection and rituals. They're all going to be part of this lunation, part of this new moon in Sagittarius. Jupiter in Cancer as ruler of the new moon suggests that the dreams that you long for might have a connection to a craving for safety and belonging. Like, where do you most feel that you fit, or where do you most feel at home? And that the things you want to move towards, the new beginnings you might want to activate with this new moon, may help you get closer to nourishment that nurtures both your body as well as kind of fills up your soul. With this kind of Sagittarius Cancer link, there's really a mix between physical needs and challenges as well as the needs of the spirit. There's a lot about growth and expansion. Of course, Cancer and Jupiter and Sagittarius all share those themes. But the key here right now might be to realize that to explore life to its fullest, to have interesting and meaningful adventures and experiences, we have to be well and strong in our body. And that to be well and strong in our body also requires that we have guiding principles and a philosophy to follow. We're sort of seeing those Cancer, Sagittarius themes here as tied together by Jupiter. Now, Jupiter's place in Cancer at this new moon it sort of puts Jupiter in the 8th house position relative to the new moon in Sagittarius. Now, I always think about Jupiter as an influence that can help point to upgrades and improvements. And so with this new moon, it's in Sagittarius and the ruler Jupiter is making an 8th house relationship to it. That indicates that this new moon can support you improving, upgrading, or reworking a wide range of financial matters, but especially those relating to taxes, retirement and long-term savings, as well as family money matters, maybe inheritances, maybe money matters with a romantic partner. It's also a clue that any forward progress now, as indicated by the new moon being in this movement-loving sign of Sagittarius, any movement forward now is going to require healing any tender emotional wounds from the past. Anything that has caused you some anguish or hurt, that stuff, those memories, may be ripe for new and deeper healing right now. And taking time to address some of those most kind of fearful or wounded or afraid parts of your psyche can help ensure that you're truly ready to move forward into new possibilities as free as you can be from old baggage. So there's lots of rich themes in this new moon in Sagittarius offering. So hopefully that's brought forward a few thoughts and ideas for you. At a personal level, you can always consider the natal house in your birth chart that holds the sign of Sagittarius to get insights about how this particular new moon might be personally activating your chart. I would love to hear what house this new moon in Sagittarius will be lighting up in your chart, so let me know in the comments below. I hope you can join me for the webinar on the 2026 Year Ahead Astrology coming up on December 20th. I'll be back to share more in a future episode. Thanks for joining me today. Until next time, take care.